would you mind kind of explaining what exactly Fashion Potluck is and what you do for Fashion Potluck?
Well, Fashion Potluck is a social media platform for women. It's a first social media for women in the Western world. And curiously enough, it used to be a fashion look sharing website. So basically, we started with the idea of having a fashion look sharing website. And never mind that we were like so, pro women and ambitious and inspired by women, we never thought that it would evolve into what it is right now. Basically, when we had a fashion look sharing website about 4 years ago, yeah, we started in 2016. Literally, I think 6 months later, maybe even less, there were a lot of women who were joining the platform and sharing content that had to do very little with fashion. So basically, within a couple of months, our community of women, not purposely, but they did make us evolve into a social media platform for women. And we are very happy about it with my co-founder, because as I mentioned, we are very much like into this topic, very much for women, and we are feminists ourselves, but we just didn't think that we would create such a wonderful platform, so that kind of like happened naturally. And I think we are very happy because the impact that we are making is much bigger than we could ever think of, so
yeah, for sure.
It's really great. So right now we are a global platform. We are operating mainly in the US, UK, Netherlands. We're based in Amsterdam, Western Europe, and recently not couple, but like some people from Eastern Europe started joining. So we are little by little, but becoming global. And I think that's great, because yeah, there are a lot of regions that need such platforms that we didn't like tackle yet. So yeah,
absolutely. I think that's so cool how like sometimes one thing can start out one way, but then like how the audience interacts with it kind of changes what exactly the meaning of the platform is. I think that's so cool. And yeah, you're totally right. Like I think that like we're mainly operating in the States right now, but like it's so true that like women all across the world need platforms like this to kind of reaffirm for themselves that like confidence is key and have all these tips and stuff. So for sure, that's wonderful work.
Absolutely. And as like more and more we are realizing that the need for such a platform is actually not decreasing, it's only increasing, which
sure.
Which is not pleasant, but like with more and more every day when I wake up, like I realize that our platform is becoming more and more relevant, and at the same time the things that we try to do are also like more and more important. So that's great.
For sure, I completely agree. And so the next question I kind of have is like, kind of touches on that confidence issue. So why do you think it's so imperative for young women to understand the importance of leadership and initiative?
Well, I think, in my opinion, if women do not take care of themselves, if women do not develop self-love, and if women don't, like try to become leaders, like no one will do it for them. Because I think the society, unfortunately, is still not there yet. The society's message, the main message of society, is not for women to self-love themselves and become as leaders and take ownership of things that they do. Not really. Like I think like if you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not going for what you want, then no one will force you, or no one will push you to do it. No one will incentivize you to do it. So I think that's the primary reason, because you need to understand that if you're not going to do it, society is not going to help. Like no one is going to like again, like walk you to the leadership positions. You actually need to do it yourself. The thing is that, like living in Amsterdam, I'm from Eastern Europe myself, so like I've seen, like a very, very stereotypical, environment in terms of, basically a massive gender gap.
Right.
Like I faced all the stereotypes myself, and luckily my family is quite open-minded. So luckily I was able to still, grow up quite, open-minded, ambitious. There were no that many stereotypes, and as a woman growing up, I thought, well, I can do that because why not? But that's because I was lucky with my family, with my parents.
Right.
But even living in Amsterdam, I understand that we kind of, myself better said, I live in a small bubble because it seems like it's becoming better. You know, it seems like women are getting leadership positions, women are heard, women are this and that, and it is happening, but with tiny, tiny steps. You know, when I look outside of my bubble, you know, like of women entrepreneurs with whom I contact on a daily basis because I'm in the crowd, you know, I'm liking the crowd. But when I look outside, I realize that it's not becoming better in other parts of the world. Sometimes it's becoming worse, and we're even in some places are going backwards. So that's the thing. Even though some of us might have an illusion that women are heard more now and women are in a better place, many times they are actually not at all. So I think that's the importance of women, you know, like to have self-love and go for leadership, and also for women supporting each other, is because, yeah, society is not gonna help, unfortunately, yet many societies will not. So
Right, I completely agree with you there. And first of all, I just want to say that's so inspiring that like you grew up in Eastern Europe and you saw that there was this kind of like gender gap in a way, and you wanted to actively combat that. I think that's so cool. And I guess what I wanted to say is like I completely agree with you in the sense that like I am much younger than you, and like our platform is much smaller, but even I can kind of notice that like there are still kind of aspects in like my daily life as a student where I kind of see the confidence gap, and I kind of see like women becoming less scared to take leadership initiative. And so like I'm just saying, if I can see it at such a young age, I can imagine like what it's going to be like in the future, in like women's 20s and 30s, how they grow as entrepreneurs and stuff. So I think that it's so cool that you tackled that problem head on. And that kind of ties into my next question. You kind of talked a little bit about the confidence gap that you saw in Eastern Europe growing up. I was just wondering, like, if you thought, like, if there was a specific kind of reason that you think that confidence gap might exist, and how we might actively be able to combat that.
well, I think there are multiple reasons for that, to be honest. I don't think there's ever only one reason for something happening. However, you know, like it goes back, of course, to the history, you know, like to the like gender gap, to the gender roles, as all goes back, you know, like years back. So we're not going to talk about it because again, right, years back, even not, yeah, years back and decades, and you know, like there were clear gender roles, what a man does and what a woman does. And I think that's coming from there. However, even right now, if you look at how children grow up, I think that is always the root cause. History. People were used to live like that, gender roles, and therefore they are projecting these stereotypes and gender roles to their children. To me, I think it always comes back from that, because you know, like how you grow up, you are very likely to project this onto your children. It's not always the case, but you know, like if you don't see anything else than that, and you're not making effort to see anything else than that, then you're very likely to project it onto your children, and your children are likely to project it onto their children. So I think it all comes back from there, goes back to the education, you know, how children grow up. So like I was also having this discussion with my co-founder that, you know, like children when they grow up, even, you know, like the toys, simple thing, a simple thing as toys, you know, like women play with dolls, boys play with cars, boys play with like money, boys play with like guns, girls have like this motherly, you know, like roles of playing with dolls. I hope it's changing, but still, like growing up, I think I even had this discussion with someone in the Netherlands, like right now. I think their child is going to a school, and there was something like division of colors. Boys choose blue, girls choose pink, boys choose cars, girls choose dolls right now in 2020, you know?
Right. Yeah.
So, of course, guys grow up being taught that you're a man and you need to protect your family, you need to take care of your family, you need to make money, you need to be a provider. And girls grow up many times, not everywhere, you know, like I'm not never generalizing, but what I'm still facing is that girls grow up, you need to be a mother, you need to take care, you need to be feminine. Myself, I faced this many times, not growing up, but even nowadays, that you're a woman. What do you mean you're a founder? Like you like literally like a week ago. No, you need to be behind your man. You need to be, like like take care of your family and raise kids. So it all comes back from like how you grow and what like statements are being told to you. So I think it rarely happens, but it likely happens that children do grow up in very like gender neutral environment, and we're not going to go into like the how do you say this? Oh, I forgot the word what I want to say, but basically like like there are limits to everything, of course, but like when I will be growing up my kid, like I will not be choosing dolls and things rooms if it's a girl. And you can just always give a choice. And I think it's very important not to put this stereotypes and statements into their fresh minds,
Right.
It's extremely hard because everything you're saying they're like taking in as a sponge. It's extremely tough thing to do, but if you're raising a kid and you want to raise an open-minded person with an opinion, then I think you just need to be careful with what you project to them. And it comes back to the society. So if everyone, like many people, have to do it in order to change something. Like in schools, everything has to be different. In family, things have to be different. So I hope you get my point. I'm like,
yeah, no, I absolutely do. And you're completely right in the way that like
so many things bothering me. Like I just can't pick one. It's a complex situation, and that's like it's bothering me that we are still very like helpless in this regard.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think it's just like I'm glad that I think society is moving towards a direction where like labels are kind of becoming a little bit less important, and women are having more choices. But I know that that's not happening in every part of the world, and I think that you did a really great job of like helping me understand that. And yeah, I think that like there still are like kind of it comes really down to like who are the people that you're talking to at an early age. And so I guess that kind of ties into my next question, which has to do with like role models that you had growing up. So I was just wondering if you or anyone on your team had specific women that you really looked up to.
Yeah, so I also discussed it with my co-founder and some team members as well. And curiously enough, we agreed that for us, the role models were our families. So my co-founder, he was growing up in an environment full of women, women who were working. So that's a very curious thing, to see. So growing up, you just see women working, and that's a norm for you, right? So you will never think with women cannot be leaders, women cannot work. You just can't have this thought because you just see your parents, grandparents working with women.
Yeah.
In my case, as I mentioned to you, also my parents, my mother, grandmother, they're quite open-minded, and I was never said what to do as a woman and what not to do as a woman. And like otherwise they were telling me, like develop yourself, grow, work, enjoy your life, and then like think of a family when you actually want it. And I think I did have a chance many times to go the other way because aside of my family, there were other people, like in schools, camps, universities, anywhere, they would always tell you something opposite, something stereotypical. And I would discuss it with my mother, and she would always tell me, like, no, like, she would always, say something different, and she would even protect me when those people would, basically attack me with some stereotypes, because that happens as well. So I think for both of us and some other team members of family, luckily, I think we're very lucky because it goes back to what I was saying. And to bring up the names, I was not able to think of anyone. I was thinking about the question. I did not have anyone specific that I was looking onto, neither right now, to be honest. what does inspire me, I do really get inspired by success stories of women entrepreneurs, and it doesn't even matter what they do, whether it's fashion brand, whether it's a medical app, or I don't know, a charity organization. It doesn't matter what they do, but if if they are being successful, if they're growing and they're overcoming all the obstacles and challenges on their ways, that's really inspiring. And also if they still have a good attitude after they reach the heights, because unfortunately they are also like, sometimes, like the attitude changes, but that doesn't matter. It's just, I'm always very inspired by intelligent, kind, ambitious women who actually reach something. And it doesn't matter what. I'm really always inspired by different success stories. And I see them quite often, which is a very positive sign.
That's amazing. And yeah, I think like both of those aspects I completely agree with. Like, I'm a woman that kind of wants to go into like politics and business in my future. And I just can't imagine like what I would be thinking if my parents were like, oh, women can't lead and women can't go into those fields. I just can't imagine how that would feel. And I think that like as you as an entrepreneur, you probably understand that. And I think this whole idea of like reading women's success stories, like that's kind of why we have this interview platform, because we wanted to highlight women in different workforces, and especially women like you who have created like these projects that help other women directly. So I think I completely agree with you. I think if like learning about other women who have been successful and who have entered the workforce in different areas is so important for young women to really like see that they can do that as well. So that's really awesome.
Absolutely. It's extremely important. And it's actually it's actually a big difference from when we were growing up. Because the access to media, well, there was no social media when I was like growing up,
right.
And access to media was really controlled. So you read what you have to read. So I think that's a big difference, and a good difference. That right now with social media, you can actually, show things like that and talk about things like that, and that can also make it.
For sure. So that actually ties into my next question again. That's really awesome. So I guess, what is the importance of creating a safe online community for women, and why do you think it's so important to create like this women's only platform?
Sure. Well, there are multiple things that why we need to have such a platform, because even though again we might be in a bubble, social media for women right now is not a very positive place many times.
Yeah.
Luckily myself, I didn't encounter any harassment, at least not a very very attacking or obvious one. But I actually, when I was creating one article for Fashion Potluck, I stumbled upon some numbers that, for example, I think 23% of women who were polled by Amnesty International, that they said that they had experienced online abuse or harassment. 23%, almost a quarter. That's a lot. And 64% of women also polled by Amnesty International, they said that they do expect these things to happen. Not that they are waiting for them, not in that regards, but they realize how common that is. Yeah. So they wouldn't be surprised if they, face it. And at the same time, like when you're like reading about social media, you read all these things that, still men are retweeting more than women, and that, like initially Facebook was a site to rank hot girls. That was like years ago, but still. The poll is really recent, and if a quarter of our women is experiencing online abuse and harassment, that's not okay. There are billions of social media users, 25%, 23%, but it's almost a quarter. That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot. So I think this is this is self-explanatory. Of course, there is like some part of like misogyny, where women also can like harass women. That's also the case. However, in our platform, which is only for women, we indeed, men are not participating. Men at the moment cannot register in our platform. Also, the majority of women are being harassed by men as well. However, talking about harassment in general, as I mentioned, women can also do that. Our community has control over abuse and harassment. It's not only about the gender, it's also about harassment in its larger sense.
Right.
So again, in our platform, if someone is facing abuse or there are some abusive posts, some offensive content, women have the power to remove it. And it's not that, like thousands of women have to do it. There is a smaller number of women that have to say this content is offensive, to get this and this, and our platform will delete this content.
Right.
So I think that's great that, like if there's something wrong, women can, like take ownership of the platform.
Yeah, 100%. And those statistics are absolutely jarring. And I think that makes it so important for women to feel safe and to have like a platform to feel safe on. And wow, that's really jarring. I guess like my next question has to do with like maybe a little bit of a different aspect of like women on social media, is also the idea of like the perpetuation of self-insecurity. So like young women see like influencers and models, and they kind of like start feeling really horrible about themselves because maybe they don't look like that. And we've had actually young girls write to our blog saying like, how do I feel confident in my body when like other people on social media don't look this way? I was just kind of wondering like how your platform might be able to combat the idea of like women having self-insecurities, and why I guess that's also an important reason to have a women's only social media platform.
Yeah, well, I will tell you more than I think we all at the smaller or larger degree experience this, like when you see these perfect images that are actually not real, you're wondering, wow, like how these women, they can be so perfect. But then it's really hard for our brains to understand that that's actually not reality. We might know it's not reality, but we actually do not necessarily compute this. So I think it does affect many, and it's a large percentage of women are affected by such images, and we all see them. So in regards to fashion Potluck, like one of our values, so we have main values of authenticity, support, added value, and women empowerment. These are 4 of our values, and one of them, as I mentioned, is authenticity. So we always try to have authentic and real content on fashion Potluck. And if you go to fashion Potluck, rarely you will see such perfect Photoshop face-tuned images.
Right.
So when we are, reaching out to content creators, well, before like how we started, we were reaching out to content creators that whose content we like, and like going on, like those women, talked about fashion Potluck to other women, which is similar. So right now, what I'm trying to say is that our community is quite, authentic, and content that is on the platform is quite real. So I'm very happy with it. It was sort of purposeful, but we can't exactly control it because we cannot curate content, right? It's content creators who take care of the platform themselves. But I'm very happy with what it is at the platform right now. And I think basically who comes to our platform right now is women who can relate to the content that's already there. This is why it's still going in the direction that I like. When and if we go viral, like it's going to be slightly different discussion. I think there we can slightly come up, with more maybe some rules or maybe some guidelines and stuff like that. Another thing is that a lot of women, apparently, we discovered it quite recently. However, we always had it. They want to have a chronological feed, and we've had it since the very beginning. And that's one of our unique selling points because the content on the platform is being posted on a first come, first served basis. So there is no need to compete for attention. There is no need to compete for likes. Because one of the reasons why women are creating this perfect, amazing images is because there's so much content that they need to compete for likes, for attention, because many times it's their job as well. So you need to go out of your way to create something completely crazy and surreal. So in our platform, you do not have to do that. It's a chronological feed again. If myself and you, yourself and myself, we come to the platform right now and we make a post, it will appear on the very top. And then the next person comes, it's the next post.
Right.
So basically, yeah, again, you don't need to compete for it. Like every post will get its visibility. So that's another way.
For sure. And I think that like social media can become so toxic when it becomes about like the number of likes that you get, the number of comments that you get. So it's so important to just kind of promote like I guess like the taking ownership idea that you said earlier, like it's the same thing with social media. Like I think women need to take ownership of like why they have social media accounts again. It's like it's for them to share content with other people and for them to feel safe. And I feel like so much of social media hasn't perpetuated that, but it's like having a women's only social media platform allows women the safety to do that. So that's really, really great.
I wanna add something to this because another important, very important thing is our community. In our case, community is not just a word. It's not just that we have thousands of women and we call ourselves a community. In our case, we literally interact with many of our users. They already know each other. They interact with each other. Sometimes I believe they even met. We met them. We had 3 live events. So, and we do, like on a personal basis, with myself sometimes, my co-founder and our community managers, we all talk to them personally. We support them, we encourage them, we empower them, and therefore they do empower and inspire each other as well. So, we get feedback. We of course we get feedback such as, "Oh, that's a great platform," and like I like sharing my content here always. But we also get reviews such as, "Oh, I never thought I could make a difference or make an impact by just being me." So when we get reviews like that, that's fantastic. And that's because, again, it's not so much it's not a social media where you are looking for collaborations and likes and money, but it's more than that. You create content for this content to be read. And a small remark, we don't have just pictures, it's not visual based, it's actually long reads. Most of our content is long reads, and this is what we encourage. So it's not about the picture, it's about the content.
Right.
So yeah, so if they create content for this content to be read, for other women to interact with them, and for them to inspire each other. And in our very short-term future plans, we are planning to create even like more like a private community, because more and more women are joining. It's hard to keep this interaction going, and we want to create a women club. Like with more tools, more features. It's going to be a bit more private.
Yeah, for
for
sure.
them to interact with each other and support each other. Like privately as well.
Awesome. That's absolutely amazing. And I guess you kind of like touched about this like in the last answer, but this whole idea of like inclusivity, because there's so many different types of women at this point, and there's women of all interests. And I saw, like, I visited your website, and you have like all this wide variety of content, and like content for like women that are interested in like Wonder Woman and movies, to women that are interested in food, to women that are interested in makeup, fashion, and travel, all of these things. I was just wondering, like, how do you make sure that there's content for women of all interests on your platform, and how do you think inclusivity is encouraged?
Well, first of all, again, like we do not curate content. We like diversity, and I think we also project this. So women of all kinds of content, they're welcome to the platform. That's first. We do have different categories, and we also send this message that you can find anything at the platform. So but basically, I don't know, like that's a really good question, and I'm really happy that you're actually asking this, because I'm happy that we have such a platform. But I don't know, I think that's the message we project, and the women we are inviting, because as I mentioned, we are not after a picture, we're not after phase two imperfect pictures. So we try to approach real people, and real people talk about different things, right? And not only about what sells. So
Right.
I think that's one of the reasons that they just create content on a variety topic, because they don't stick to a niche in order to sell it. I don't know. But again, like we do have different categories that's visible. We literally, I think, have posts about everything. I think we are slightly lacking sexual education. We want to have it more on the platform.
For sure.
And right now when we realize we would like to have more of this because it's extremely important and relevant, we are, looking out at the content creators who do that and invite them on board as well. So in this regard, and when there is no particular category for those women to share their content, we create it for them.
Right.
You know, I think food category wasn't there initially. So, we created the food category because we had all the recipes and they wanted to create content for that category. So, yeah.
For sure. And I think it's so important as because we kind of operate a blog as well, just this idea of adapting as your audience adapts, as more people come on and their interests kind of change towards a different direction, to make sure that they'll continue visiting by creating a new page for them, that they'll be able to express themselves. I think it's so important because women have so many different interests, and it's just we can't put ourselves in a bubble. We always have to be open for other interests to be shared. So I think that's so
absolutely. Recently, we received our first ASMR post. What it is? Recently, our content creator made it himself, the first video. We were so happy because we do this diversity of content, that makes the platform alive and interesting.
For sure.
That's really great.
Yeah, awesome. I guess my last question just kind of has to do with the organization's future. So what is the ultimate goal of your organization, and what is the change that you seek to inspire so that future women can feel more confident?
Well, basically, our mission is to become the point of reference for women-generated content on the internet.
For sure.
So basically, we want to be this real platform with a lot of value-added content where when you want to, I don't know, search for dating advice, you just go to Fashion Potluck and you search for it, or you go to a forum or ask someone. When you want to find a recipe, you also go to Fashion Potluck. When you want to find a travel guide or a music recommendation, you also go to Fashion Potluck. So that's our ultimate goal, to become this website where women want to come to find something, and also that they feel safe to come because it's not promoted content, because it's value-added content, and because it's real. So that's my ultimate goal with Fashion Potluck for sure.
That's amazing. And
you can empower, inspire women, and little by little make it change as much as we can. It's I'm not being overambitious. It's an extremely tough and long process, but little by little, make a change. Hopefully,
I just think that this idea is this idea is so wonderful, and it probably will. I think as the audience gets bigger and as more topics are covered, those will slowly become an amazing an organization that just serves as reference for everyone. And I think that that's totally possible. But I think that that's just so important to hear, I think, for young women, that so much social media nowadays has had the connotation of being competitive, being fake. And so I think the overarching idea of kind of what we talked about today is that has destroyed women's confidences, and the harassment has completely destroyed I guess the idea that social media can be a safe place for women. And so to create a women's only platform where authenticity is valued and safety is valued, I think that's so important. And I think that a lot of our young members would find that really helpful. So we'll definitely be spreading your platform to our audience.
Yeah, I would like to collaborate also with more female empowered organizations, because I think as our motto says, stronger together we influence the growth. So I think indeed together we're stronger than collaborating with more organizations, companies, brands, individuals will be great as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.